Global economy is starting to crack a bit with the global yield crisis starting to accelerate. And in today's video, we're going to talk about this because this is not looking good for the global economy. Are some bad things on the way. We're going to be talking about the gold and silver price as well because it has been volatile within the last 24 hours for both gold and silver. We'll break that down. And we've also got some urgent breaking news coming in from the Kentucky primary. Thomas Massie has lost that. We're going to talk about what exactly that means for America. So it is a bellwether symbol of where the US is going, how you can prepare for it as well, and the unfortunate reality of where we are and where we're heading right now. So if you guys enjoy these updates, like the video and let's get straight into it. So one thing we are seeing around the world right now is the global yield crisis is accelerating. 10+ year government bonds of G7 countries are up to 4.7%. They are climbing the highest level since 2004. And this is really coming off the back end of renewed inflationary pressures from rising energy prices, persistently large government deficits, and the end of central bank QE programs. So investors are demanding high compensation for holding long-term government debt. And the global government debt crisis is even becoming more expensive. And yes, all these factors we've been talking about on the channel, guys, they are coming true. So governments continue to print out money. They continue to go into debt. The Strait of Hormuz is not even getting resolved. We're going to talk about some key statistics as well later in the video coming straight out of Congress. And it's just not looking good. So, fundamentally, if you have a look at gold and silver, even though there's volatility, right, in the last week, last couple of days, yes, there has been a bit of a sell-off, a risk-on sell-off of both tech stocks and also gold and silver and to some degree the S&P 500. Fundamentally, it does have those properties that are supposed to fight against this debasement of currency that we will see, pretty much guaranteed coming out of the government. So the US government will go into more debt. It will spend more money. It's going to spend it on a lot of things. And again, more inflation, more economic cracks, and is something bad going to happen in the future, potentially with the way this whole scenario is playing out right now. We are seeing in the background of all this, the rise of China, the rise of Russia. Russia's ruble becomes the world's best performing currency against the US dollar this quarter. And not only that, the Chinese and the Russians are getting together. So just today, in the next 24 hours, Russian President Putin arrives in China for a 2-day visit. And we are seeing this big kind of coming together of Russia and China. There's a lot of natural resources. There's a lot of tech getting shared. There's a lot of military power getting shared. And it's just going to get more and more volatile as this, geopolitical tensions unfold around the world. And on the back of that as well, we've just had a bellwether election happening in the US. And that's between Thomas Massie, who is a real grassroots anti kind of, establishment, as in, just towing the line for war and government spending. And, also he was instrumental into getting the Epstein files released into the US public so they could review what's in it. And so he was one of the most popular guys in terms of, just doing what the average American actually wanted. Not wasting money, looking at very dark issues within US politics. And unfortunately, this guy has now lost his primary, so he has been ejected. But it wasn't just, it didn't happen by accident. There was actually so much money spent against him from, lobbying groups, foreign interest groups, millions upon millions. So super PACs contributed $16.4 million or more to the opponent. You had the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, coming down to actually rally against Massie. You also had President Trump dropping videos against Massie. So it was a completely stacked establishment against Thomas Massie. And I have to say, unfortunately, he has succumbed and he has lost it. So, and Owen Schroyer gives a good kind of assessment of what this actually means for America. And he says right here, Massie wins, much needed morale boost. Hope remains we can save the country politically. Americans can defeat donors and lobbyists. So that was the case if Massie was to win. And if Massie loses, and this is what's happened, morale bottoms out, conservative voters stay home, hope dwindles, there's any political options left. Donor class owns our country. And it is quite true, right? So look, in politics, it's all about money, organization. And, unfortunately, that is the stuff that is winning elections in the US, and it probably has historically for the last couple of decades. And even as popular as Thomas Massie was, he still lost. That's crazy. And you can see right here, Peter Schiff saying, according to Trump, Thomas Massie is the worst congressman in the history of our country. There have been a lot of bad congressmen in history, but even among those currently serving, Trump must think AOC is better than Massie. That says a lot about our real Donald Trump. So Peter Schiff dropping some tweets against Trump, and he goes on to say, thanks to Donald Trump, we now have two Democratic parties. With the defeat of Thomas Massie for being a principled fiscal conservative, the Republican Party basically exists in name only. We only have two big government political parties, each offering its own brand of socialism. It's unfortunate to be the bearer of bearish news, but I just have to be honest with you on the channel because, look, I'm here to just give you honest analysis. I'm not here to become a political grifter, a political shill, and there's so many of them in the US, right? A lot of people who are coming out against Thomas Massie, guys, they're just getting paid. It's just payment money, and I cannot think of a worse job to be a political grifter and a political shill. That is got to be one of the worst jobs in the world, but there's plenty of them out there over on X. And you can see right here, this is the reality. If you're just, you're an American, you're a hardworking, tax-paying person, you got your 9-to-5 job, this thing is never going to stop, right? It's 39 trillion in debt. It's going to go up. You've got very organized elite groups against you, and they are just they're just taking your tax money and spending it on who knows what. And to put it into perspective, right, the rising and the clash that's going to happen eventually, we're not exactly sure when this clash will happen, but it will happen eventually. And that's going to be between, China and the USA, which is going to be the main rivals. But to give you an understanding of kind of what's up for grabs and why you should care about this is because, look, at the end of the day, this is all a zero-sum game. So at the moment, there is so much money getting spent overseas on like things that don't really benefit the US. They are losing they have lost a lot of aircraft. And just recently, the US has actually admitted they lost a F-35 jet, which is, pretty advanced stuff. They lost an E-3 Sentry and 24 MQ-9 Reapers. But the whole point of this is there's a lot of money getting spent on things that don't really, benefit you, right? It doesn't really benefit you at all, right? How do you benefit from, huge ships sailing around the world, destroying other countries' infrastructure? Does it really benefit you, or do the oil prices go up? It doesn't really. So, where could that money get spent? And Elon Musk has summed it up pretty nicely over on X. And this is the stuff China is spending its money on. So have a look at this. This is the world's biggest train station. It's like 5 times bigger than New York station, 7 times bigger as Tokyo station. China has recently just built this, using materials around the world, steel, all the important commodities and minerals going into this project. It's absolutely huge, and this is what it looks like at nighttime as well. It's massive. It's huge. It's the world's largest high-speed train station. And this is where the Chinese are spending their money, right? Basically on their own infrastructure, on their own country, and their citizens benefit from it. Whereas the US, where does your money really go? That's the big question. And if we have a look at some Iranian updates, remember, this thing is completely unresolved. I did see rumors yesterday, unsubstantiated rumors, but, we'll just talk about them anyway, that the reason Trump actually called off the attack on Iran is because apparently the Iranians have started to predict, American strategy and attack maneuvers, and there wasn't going to be a surprise attack and, a good outcome and a favorable outcome in terms of America restarting that war. But look, Trump is saying that it's been delayed by a couple of days, but we'll see, what happens there. But we do know it's not an easy, defeat, and it's not going to be the same as how it was back in, 2003, 2004, rolling into Iraq and Afghanistan. It is a completely different ballgame. You got drones, you got missiles. Asymmetric warfare is starting to rise, and it is just going to be what it is, and this is just going to be something we're going to have to, watch within this empire. And to bring it back to gold and silver, look, holding on relatively, okay, bit of volatility going up and down, but there's a lot of risk at the moment in the stock market. If there is to be an outbreak of this Iran conflict in the next couple of days, maybe Trump does pull the trigger Typically we have seen a bit of a sell-off on gold and silver, also S&P 500 when that's happened. And you can see right here, what is the Brent oil price doing? Guys, there is a trend to the upside. So again, not resolved. And I've also seen other analysis out there that, this has not... the urea and the fertilizer whole issue is completely unresolved as well. So this is something you're going to have to just think about, and potentially if the urea and fertilizer thing is not fixed, you could potentially still have these food shortages around the world once these farming cycles really kick in and the lag effect takes place. But that's a major update for today. So a lot of stuff happening in the US, unfortunately some bearish political news, and yeah, it's going to be going straight into the storm, basically, long term. That's the bellwether signal we've got today. And look, I appreciate you tuning in. Go have a great rest of today, and I'll see you in the next update on the channel.